What it sounds like. Soon,
Coffee?
I'll be able to hear what it sounds like.
Coffee down that way?
I messed up my nap.
What do you mean actuated?
You've had it down
Turn it
there?
on.
Oh, there's
it's going
it's at the
this
top of the right side. There's one button.
Somebody wants to settings?
I don't know
How do I sound? Testing. 1, 2, 3. That right there. Right.
You're talking about this
No,
exterior.
that's a volume button. The one at the top. This one right here above it. Right above it. There's two there. Top one's the power button. I hear what it sounds like. Okay,
Coffee down
audio
that way?
screen sounds good. What do you mean actuated?
You've had it down
Two
there.
screen sounds good.
Oh, there's ready to go?
I think we're ready to go. We're ready to go.
I have a
Throw this
question.
up.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the San Carlos Computer Club. We meet every Tuesday from 9:15 to 10:15-ish. Sometimes I can't get out of here until after 11. And you guys all abandoned me last week. I sat here and talked to Bob, who's not here right now. Where's Bob go?
We're sorry.
And
We had a
abandoned
great
you.
conversation about SD cards and resolution and what he was trying to do with his TV, and it was like really good content. So I recommend, if you have any questions about resolution, memory cards, when I say resolution, I mean like picture resolution, video resolution, display resolution. If you're interested in that kind of stuff, like the last 15 minutes of last week was just one-on-one with Bob and me and Richard having this conversation. And it was some pretty interesting, he had some interesting questions and some things he was doing, and we had some good answers. So you guys missed that. You left us for all by ourselves.
10:30.
Well,
Yeah.
I understand. I needed to go to the bathroom too. Yes, Judy.
This is another resolution TV question.
Okay.
So I just got X Pro. I have a Vizio. I finally got the internet to connect, but when I click on my smart Netflix, it says not connected. You go back in, and it's not connected anymore.
And this is on your Vizio, and it's disconnecting from your Wi-Fi. Well, that's not great.
No VPN.
It's disconnect. I mean, it's
I can see it connected, right?
and then you go to do Netflix.
and it gives me a little box, no connection. I go back, and it's not connected.
Okay, well,
Is this a Vizio issue?
it sounds like a Vizio issue to begin with, because none of your other stuff is disconnected.
No.
So that sounds to me like problems with what's inside your smart TV is the same kinds of things that are inside a computer, and so it sounds like a memory corruption, something
So
like
it's
that.
remembering my old, this is what I thought maybe, it's remembering my old connection to my old router.
Well, maybe a better way to think about it is it's remembering some kind of crap. It's got some kind of crap in there that's
So I
making
should
this not work.
reset it to factory.
Well, I don't know if you need to do that yet unless have you pulled the power on it?
No.
I would unplug it and let it sit
I
for
know
10
that.
seconds and plug it back in and see if you have
Okay.
the same experience.
Okay.
I have a Samsung, and every so often I turn it on, and I have a computer plugged into it with an HDMI, and every so often I turn it on, and it scares the hell out of me because there's just these crazy, like 8-bit colors streaming across the screen. Like you barely make out the start menu, and they're all in this perpendicular kind of end to end. And the first time I came across it, I'm like, oh my God, something's broken. My computer's broken. I mean, I started debugging the computer, and after time, I learned to stop even paying attention to any of the devices connected to it. All I do is I unplug the TV, let it sit for a couple of seconds, plug it back in, start it back up, and it immediately solves
Okay.
the
But you
problem.
want a new TV, so the next time that happens,
Yeah.
look, it's
Right,
broke.
look.
Right, she's the one that wants the new TV.
Yes, thank you.
She's trying to talk me. She's like, look, the kids keep taking over the living room. We need one for our room. And I wonder
You're
if,
busing now?
I guess so. He's gonna get the tip now.
hey, Bob, I could use a cup of coffee.
I know that.
You were
There's
not.
the
I
pot.
know that.
He doesn't have a cup.
There's the pot.
Bob's on his way.
There's a lot of
No,
used
Bob's
cups.
getting it.
He is?
Uh-huh.
There's a lot of used cups.
She can get it fast.
Yeah, there's-
Yeah, I probably.
So, and do you really want another another TV? With what we've learned about what the TV manufacturers are doing now, is they are really selling your behavior information for marketing, and they've really dropped the prices on TV, so they're very enticing. I think I told you last week I saw a 65-inch TV.
I guess he didn't get a cup.
Was it a Vizio? Was it?
The pot is here, but
No, it's a Samsung. They had a 65-inch 4K Samsung for around $850, which is a pretty reasonable price. But there's a Sanyo that it's competing with, 65-inch 4K. That one's $450.
Here in Limas or on the internet?
This is just on the internet. But to give you an idea, the reason they can do these deep price cuts isn't because these are last year's TVs. It's because they're making enough money off of selling your behavior for marketing. That's not the way. In fact, they're trying to create this refresh cycle with TVs that never existed before. They want you to buy a new TV the same way people buy a new, at least laptop, but I suspect a cell phone too at some point. They'll be like this, get into a leasing model and you can replace your TV next year for $150.
Speaking of behavior,
Gracias.
they have a cryptic camera on them.
Mm-hmm.
So you're watching it in your bedroom and it's watching you.
They've
In the bedroom.
They're-
That's why you don't put a TV in the bedroom.
That's
One of
right.
the reasons.
One of the reasons.
No, you
Many
get that little
reasons.
black tape.
That's what I do too.
That's- just build a margin around it, a border. Cover everything that could be peering at you.
Frame it.
Of course, you know, pretty soon that won't work because they want to put the camera behind the screen. Right? So like in your phones, that's the next iteration we're going to see is that you're going to have complete screen coverage, but there will be a camera hidden behind it. So that you can take full advantage of your screen without being disturbed by the bump or the dot.
Yeah, right.
But at the same time, you
Right.
I'm telling you, the cave is looking better and better.
It's okay.
You have 2 cups of coffee.
Yeah.
I don't know how that happened, but I
don't know.
I thank you guys for it. I should down this one before the other one gets cold. So in classic fashion, I've brought topics as well.
Hit them first.
Oh my gosh, we could be here all day. I've got all kinds of topics. It was a very interesting week for me. I came across a lot of articles. I'm looking, okay, well, let's some follow up. We were talking about turning off live photos on iPhones last week. And that's absolutely possible through a function in the iPhone platform that I didn't know exist. That's, what's it called? Preserve settings. Preserve settings, and it's actually in the settings. I came across 2 articles talking about this. They're off the same website. But how to configure camera settings and keep them that way for the next time you open the camera app.
Oh, yeah. I
Right?
did see that one, yes.
And so, if you want to turn off live photos, what you would do is you would go into you'd open the camera app first, and you'd set it up the way you want it to be. So you would set it to, because there is a slider or a button to turn off. And keep in mind, I'm working off of pictures. I don't have an iPhone, so all of this is theoretical for me. But when you open up the camera app on the iPhone, there's an icon there that allows you to turn off the live
Yes.
feature. And the question last week is, how do I keep it off? Because every time I go in, I have to tell it to turn off, and I never want to take live photos. Live photos are these kind of animated photos. It's where the camera comes on a little bit before you take the picture and a little bit after you take the picture. And so you've actually got this piece of video.
Do you see that up at the top?
At the
They
very
got
middle?
Slash through it.
Oh, okay.
That means
Can I
it's
s-
off.
Yeah,
That means it's off?
yeah. And mine's always off. So is HDR.
But the other thing that you may not,
Right there
I've read
in the
about-
middle.
Exactly.
I checked out the same thing, and it also said that now they are saving them in a different format. It's not a JPEG format, and so it's not taking up as much room as with the latest edition of Apple.
Well,
It's an H something or other.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
New Apple. Another thing to look up. New Apple picture format.
Right.
Because it
That's
could
how
be
they're
saving
saving it.
space, or it could be proprietary and making it a little bit more difficult to get a picture.
So what's
No,
the,
it's not
what's the
really.
thing with this live?
So, apparently there are a number of apps that support this.
Well, what is it? I mean, what?
Oh, the live photos?
What's the purpose of it?
Well, actually, what's interesting about a live
very
photo
cool.
is that you can, at any time in the future, go back. It's literally a clip of video at high resolution, like 4K. It's probably less than a few seconds, and it's right before the smile and the flash, and right after the smile and the flash. And so you have all these opportunities to say, no, this is the photo, or over here, this is the photo.
Or you can swipe on it and you actually see a brief bit of motion.
Yeah.
GIF.
Yeah,
They-
it's almost like watching a
A quick,
video.
yeah, it's
Very
not,
quick.
Very quick.
Yeah, like an animated GIF.
All right.
Yeah, but you've already got it created, and it's a default with iPhones now. And so to preserve those settings in the iPhone, there is a thing in settings. Open the camera app, turn it off, set the camera the way you want it, navigate to the settings app for the whole phone, and then tap the camera app. And they've actually had this feature since iOS 10.2. We're up to 10.13. So this has been around for a long time. Since I had an iPhone, I didn't even know it existed. You tap on the camera tab.
there is no camera tab.
It could be camera and photo and camera. Do you see photo and camera?
I'm
Are you in
looking.
settings?
Because the older applications called it something like photo and camera or camera and photo.
Mine just says camera.
Yours just says camera. And so then you should see preserve settings. Let's see. Now the sixth step here. Tap the live photo slider and turn it on. Make it green. That should be in the preserve settings. And this will save the last. This will save your last camera app settings and stop live photos from being automatically enabled. Now I also found another article on the same website talking about this. It's photos and camera. Look for photos and camera. I wrote it down earlier.
Photos and camera?
Well, if you're not, you found it under camera. But if you're not finding it under camera, you may be running an older version or a different iPhone, and it could be called photos and camera. But it's the same setting. And what's interesting about this preserve settings that I never knew existed is that it includes camera mode, photo filter, and live photos. So these are three different things that they've found people are commonly wanting to set and keep set, and this is how you would do it. You choose your defaults and preserve them here. You got it. That's it. Those are the controls you have over your iPhone's camera settings. It's the live photos, it's filters, and it's what kind of camera mode, such as video or square. But these are, if you don't have it green like this, then it doesn't matter if you've preserved the settings, it's going to revert back to whatever defaults are. If you have it green, you're saying, I want to preserve this setting. So you could switch it to video. Next time you go in, it would be video. Or you could switch it to square Instagram size. And the next. So if you've got an iPhone that's making you crazy, maybe somebody pranked you and they went and put it on one of these modes, and the first time you switched it to video was the last time you could figure out how to get back to photo. And you stumble with your phone every time, and it's because it's being preserved in the settings of
Or
the
you
iPhone.
take a picture and it's not really what you think you're taking.
Right, because you're hitting the button, it's not doing what you're expecting it to do. I can't put that screen on screen. Oh, there it
There
is.
it is.
Yeah, there it is. Those are the settings. And that's what was surprising to me is those are all stored in the iPhone settings, not the camera app itself that you're using, where you'd expect to find settings for the app. But you go back into general settings of the phone, and then you find camera settings in there. It's a much more common paradigm for Apple products or the iProducts to be functioning in that manner.
Also, in that same line of our discussion last week, You were talking about the search feature in Google Photos. It's also in your iPhotos.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
It's also in your iPhotos, that search, like you can type in beach, and it'll search for beach pictures.
Oh, yeah.
Mine will do that on my iPad.
It's in the settings?
No,
it's right at
in
the
your-
top.
It's in your pictures.
So it would be interesting to see if you're using, well, if you're using an iPhone, you're probably using both, because I recommend you use both because of the backup situation with Google Photos. And it would be interesting, I don't have an iDevice in my life right now, but it would be interesting to have somebody take some search terms and look at the same collection under the two different softwares and see how similar they are, how much more accurate one is over the other. We've done a lot of this with Siri versus Google.
Google Assist.
Yeah, Google Assist versus Siri. And the big joke is how much more effective Google is than Siri. Siri's supposed to be so much more private, and that's what makes it so ineffective.
But the hard thing is to getting to Google Assist from your iPhone.
Getting to Google Assist from your iPhone?
It's very hard. I mean, it doesn't always recognize Open Google Assist.
Oh, you know what? There's a way you can turn it into a shortcut. I think we actually talked about it at one time.
I have that, but it doesn't recognize it when I say it a lot of times. Hey Siri,
I was going to say, phones are shooting off all over the table, all across the internet. Phones are going off right now. That was awesome.
Wi-Fi is on.
Wi-Fi is on. That's great. Wi-Fi's on.
Put it away.
Smother it.
Yeah. It didn't work, though. You notice? I put my hands over it. It didn't.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that because I came across another article. This is not new, but this is interesting. I mean, it's somewhat new. You can search for text in your Google Photos. I don't know if we talked about that last week, where you can type in, like say I'm standing in front of a sign and you can see a word in it. That word is actually being optically character recognized and put into their search database so that you can use that to find photos in your collection. I mean, there isn't much more to it than that. If you know that there's a sign in the photo you're looking for, well, this would be I'm realizing that, like, I do photos in places like this where it says no smoking in Spanish. I should try some of this stuff I wonder if that actually works. Where are you taking pictures?
Search.
It'd be interesting to see if anything from up here.
Text me. Let's see.
We were at the Alamos Music Festival,
Nice. Looked lots of fun.
and I think a bunch of Alamos pictures might show up if I put in Alamos.
Mine are a lot calmer than yours. Alamos pictures.
This is an unfair example because all of these are geolocated, so all they had to do is figure out I was talking about Alamos.
If you guys subscribe to Scott's Instagram,
Wow.
Cyberpunk PSYBER.
All right, look at this. This is
One of you.
this
You get
is
these
the
live.
background of the
You can
band
get this
that we
live
saw,
on your phone through Instagram.
and I haven't titled them anything, but I searched for FUA. And
Really?
yeah, and Google just produced
Wow.
these photos for me.
Now, I would
the
be
name of the
impressed
band?
if when you said Alamos, it had pictures
Oh,
of
I
cottonwood
see.
trees.
Well, I'd have to
Exactly.
have pictures of cottonwood trees for it to be there.
Well, then it would be translated.
But so searching for text is.
Mm-hmm. I thought there was a picture of you from there. I'm
Yeah,
sure
that's
there is
another one of the
somewhere.
words in there that was on that. Oh, let's try. This will be interesting. This is the Alamos Music Festival abbreviation.
Oh, that's good.
Well, that's great. Those
I
are
don't know
two
where we
different
are.
Alamos
We were at
albums
dinner
there at the top.
Oh, God.
None of
Looks
these
like
have
a
been.
very good time.
When you were playing
Oh, we had a
with the phone,
blast.
that's-
We had a lot of fun.
Oh, that was
stay
at
over?
the,
At the dinner.
Yeah, we stayed for 2 nights.
Because you have to make reservations way in advance.
I mean,
Oh, wait.
No,
I
actually,
really look
I mean, maybe I
No,
shouldn't
I
say
told you
because
to
we
say
have
that.
never had to make reservations.
nobody else.
But we've never tried to stay right in town. We always stay walking distance from town.
We looked it up last
And
year, but
we've been staying at this bed and breakfast on the outskirts of town that's worked out really nice, very clean. They have rooms that can sleep up to 5. We put 2 couples and a single in one room, so we had 2 rooms of 5 people and 1 room of 2 people. Yeah.
you do fun things.
And
Yeah,
what's
try
the
to
name
blame
of the,
blame my wife. I
What's
don't
the
think I
name
would
of
have
the
made
bed
it
and
last year,
breakfast?
the year before, or this year.
name
The-
of the bed and breakfast is?
Should I give it away? It's
Yeah.
my treasure. No, it's Rancho Acosta.
Oh, I know that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's got a
They
pool
take-
we
they
wouldn't
take
use
pets
too
as
cold.
well.
You can take pets.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
and
you
they've
used
got
to be
the
able to.
RV portion of it was full. Anybody that's driving an RV, yeah.
It's
It
the
was
one
when we
through
were
the
there.
Arroyo and.
Yeah, it was definitely busier this year than it was
Almost
the year
music
before last when I was there before.
Because when
I thought I had that
RV
speaker
park
off.
had no one
Turn
there
off.
when we were there.
Okay, I got a great topic here you guys might be interested in. It's an article about how these fridges that GE made will not allow you to change your filter with anything other than a GE filter. They've
Smart filters.
smart filters is yeah, absolutely smart filters. And they have I'm trying to keep a thought in my head and do things on my computer at the same time. Oh, I'm realizing that the reason I have a blank video is because Richard turned off the floating video. I need a bigger cue when you stick it in your pocket. Oh, all it is a blank screen.
Yeah, must have.
Scott, that's not a free zone, is it, Alamos?
No.
No, in fact, that's always been a frustration with us because we have one car that's a Mexican car and it's quite a journey for that car. The journey's gotten better through the years. It used to be just a goat trail to Alamos, but now it's a real nice paved road. Yeah. We were fortunate this year to have a friend that had a nice vehicle and offered to take us all up there.
Nice.
Can we go back to the refrigerators?
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
supposed to be changing a filter?
So, in your filter,
have a
you have a
water.
water and ice cube dispenser.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
That kind of, never mind.
and most refrigerators, at least until recently, you have the opportunity to compete for a filter because there's nothing that indicates whether it's actually a specific manufacturer's filter. It's not like HP printer cartridges where you're either getting a counterfeit or you're getting HP. There's an open market on filters, and you can choose from the one that you want. And what they've done is they've released these fridges, and they haven't done a really good job of explaining it to the people that have bought them. And so now they're finding that they're locked into this filter market controlled by GE, and they've done it with RFID sensors. So every one of the filters has its own RFID chip to indicate that it's authorized for the fridge.
Like the printers did,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
the printer inks.
The printer inks, that's right. But we still don't live in a world where we can buy. I mean, we've got counterfeit ink cartridges,
Yep.
and we've got genuine ink cartridges. We don't really have an open market of ink cartridges from a variety of vendors that we could pick and choose based on price and quality. That doesn't exist, and it never has for printers. But the fridge market's a little different because they're just filters. Right? They're just paper manufactured into a specific shape. So it's not hard for them to be manufactured for a variety of products. And what has happened is GE has put this RFID sensor in it so that you have to buy from them. There's about a $30 difference
I put in trip
in the filters, right? It's.
because I knew I had one there.
Did you have a question?
Yeah, so do you, if you have a reverse osmosis, do you need to have a filter?
Okay, this is a good lead-on question, but let me
Okay.
finish off on it, because these are other things that you could do. But there's more to this that's very frustrating. They've designed the product so that if you don't replace the filter, which many people don't, because you heard Ray's
Well,
comment.
I was not thinking ice makers.
You've got a phone in your house, right? 'Cause you can just give me a cup of water from the bottle.
Okay, you.
Dark ages, okay? Yeah.
Go
Okay.
back to the cave.
I don't even have my dispenser hooked up to water. All I have is a bottle of water in the corner I fill up. But what
I think that's one
this
too.
does is it shuts off the dispenser. So in previous fridges that you've used in the past, you might have this annoying red light saying, hey, you got to change your filter, but you can at least keep using it.
Yeah.
Where in this case, it sees that the filters
Shuts it off.
and it shuts off the system. No ice, no water.
Mine's working.
Which would be frustrating even for me, because even though I don't have mine hooked up, I pour a bag of ice in my ice. I do it all the time, so I can dispense ice right there from the fridge. It's awesome. It works great.
Yeah.
We have
Samsung's the
reverse
same.
osmosis
My ice box
in
doesn't
the
have a filter.
States. and
Same,
we don't have a
Samsung
filter.
is the same
Yeah,
as well.
but it's an older
You can't
series.
use
You can't use
off-brand.
off-brand filters.
Filters.
So really you're left with, and here's their solution to your problem. I'm assuming the Samsung doesn't shut off the system if you have a dirty filter, though.
No.
No.
No, this is for first time, at least in this article, that they were talking about like this is insult to injury. This is above and beyond obsolescence and market lock-in. It's just cruel to at least the water should be able to flow. And their response to this is that they're protecting the seals. They're making sure the mechanism doesn't break down for their warranty. And if you're going to do that, then they have a part that comes with the fridge that you can put in place to bypass the filter system. So you can just hook it up to tap water, basically.
So reverse osmosis would work.
Yeah, in that case, reverse osmosis would work. But I think this is really talking more about the environment we're letting be created by these kinds of products, and whether they should be regulated, whether they should have the right to repair. This falls into the right to repair, the right to replace. How far into this stuff should product manufacturers be allowed to get?
And in 2018, GE paid 0 federal income tax.
What?
That's a good tack on.
Multi-billion-dollar company
Paid
no tax.
0 in income tax.
They've been doing that for years.
Oh, yeah.
What's wrong with ice cube trays?
So's Amazon.
Yeah, that's an option too. So your options with these fridges, if you have a fridge like this, is you can bypass the filter system with the included part. I think it was a $12 part if you lost it after you bought the fridge. You can buy the expensive filters. I mean, they're really talking about prices. Generic filters should cost around $20, and normal filters are $50. I mean, the sanctioned filters are $50. Or you could hack your fridge, and a lot of people are doing that. There are tricks for... I can only imagine pulling the RF filter out of a genuine filter and positioning it in a counterfeit filter so that you can... Well, say that again?
Just take the paper off the filter and put the cartridge in.
I guess. I don't actually do any of this, so I'm not sure what it looks like, but... Yeah, I would hope it would be something like that. But there are definitely instructions on how to hack your filters.
YouTube.
On YouTube, yeah. Yeah, there's write-ups on it.
Okay, I had gotten a printer cartridge for a laser printer through the internet. It was, not the HP, no, it wasn't HP, wasn't the Brother brand. And when I installed it, it didn't want to work, but then I went into settings and all that other stuff, and it worked for a little while. It didn't work like the old one did, like it said it was out of ink already. So then I bought a new one and installed it, and it wasn't too long before it said it was out of ink, and it shouldn't be. So what is wrong with, is it the printer, or
No, it's the cartridge.
I have the same
or is
thing.
it the cartridges that aren't working?
But is it a genuine cartridge?
It's a genuine brother cartridge at this point. Yeah.
And how old is it?
Well, we've only had the printer for a year and a half or 2 years.
Can you print a lot?
Do you happen to have?
Well, no. The reason we got the laser printer was because it's up in Santa Fe, and all our other printers keep freezing up because they dry up so fast up there. The ink does. So this way we went to the laser printer, and it you know.
So it's a laser printer cartridge.
It's a laser printer cartridge.
But they don't dry up.
I know.
They
That's
should be
what I'm
good
saying.
forever. They
Yeah.
should. I mean, in my experience,
So many pages.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, thousands
So
of pages.
When the first one, actually, it warned you for a long time, and then when there was no color on the paper, I decided maybe we should
Now
put the
it's
new
time.
one in, which was the one that I'd gotten from Amazon, non-brand.
And is it a brand?
Well,
Is it Brother?
it wasn't a brother.
It
no.
wasn't a Brother.
But it was a 760 instead of a 730.
Oh.
And it said it would work with for the 730, and it did. You know, it fit in and everything. And after
This
going
is
to
exactly
the menu,
what we're talking about.
After going to the menu, you know, and playing with it for a while, it did start working, but it didn't work for very long.
Did you shake it to level out the,
Yeah.
the stuff in it?
Now it's
Very
bacon and all
sensitive to
kinds of stuff.
I mean, I'm sorry to say, but without it being a genuine cartridge
The
purchase,
next one was a genuine cartridge.
And so the next
now
one-
it's saying that the ink is low.
and how many pages? I mean, how long have you had it?
It was in there maybe
there's
2
some
weeks
old
that it started
ones
saying that.
that aren't, but-
Oh, there's something wrong.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Sensor in the mechanism.
Dumb
itself.
question.
You'd have to. I would think you'd have to be printing out page after page for 2 weeks straight for it to be out of ink.
That's what I would think.
Yeah,
I have
that's
to go home and clean it or something.
maybe it is something as simple as like printer ink because it's a powder, right? I mean, it's laser toner. So maybe something got powdered that's giving it the wrong information, some sensor.
I would say a cleaning.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. I mean, if you have a can of air, I'd go through it with a can of air.
Okay.
And you might, I mean, I would do this. I would go to Google and look up troubleshooting for that printer,
It was so-
specifically
so young.
for this problem, for running out of ink.
Plugging it back in.
I'd also do that. I would have done that before you came to the meeting.
The other thing with the laser printer is take your cartridge out and shake it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the moisture in the air, I don't know how I know you haven't been home for a while.
In Santa Fe, we don't have.
Yeah.
Don't worry about
I
that.
don't know about where it came from, Amazon or whatever.
Right.
Shake it up real good to get the powder.
It could have shipped
Move it
upside
again.
down for ages and settled.
But she is talking about the experience from 2 different cartridges that were both brand new. The first one was an off-brand that was supposed to work, and the second one was a legitimate brand, and both of them, their capacities were reported as bad, like 2 weeks into it.
Yeah.
Do you have more than one cartridge?
Well,
Do you have, what
I
you...
have I think I threw out the original one.
Well, no, I mean in the printer. Do you insert like a black cartridge and a color cartridge?
We don't have color on this one.
He's good
I just
looking.
wanted it making
That's
regular.
him.
Okay, so it's just a black cartridge. Okay,
Right.
yeah, because that would be another thing is that maybe one of the other cartridges would be failing, and that would cause any new other cartridge to have weird messages. But since it's a single cartridge laser printer, then that's mute. It just doesn't matter.
So unplug and then clean.
Yeah, that's what I would do. I'd unplug it, wait 10 seconds, plug it back in, try cleaning it. Clean. I'd look for troubleshooting because you could clean all day, and if you don't hit the part that needs to be cleaned, it's still gonna have the same problem. So I would do a troubleshooting. I'd search on Google for troubleshooting for that printer.
What other subjects do you have?
What have I got going on? We talked about the fridges. Did you guys see that New York City has banned cashless businesses?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
That's yeah. They've
Not taking cash.
they've passed legislation to make it illegal to have a business in New York City that you cannot use cash So there's all these pop-up shops that are happening now, all these businesses that are surviving on cashless payments, and they have no system for taking cash. And New York City is saying you can't do that.
Dollar bill says legal
I could do
tender.
bank.
Yeah, you're basically you're
That's a federal law.
disenfranchising poor people and children and people that are the terms they used in the article were
People.
chronically unbanked.
What?
That was unbanked.
People
Banked.
bank.
People that chronically do not have any banking
I know someone who's
services.
self-coupled is chronically unbanked.
But that business never has to go to the bank, that's why they like it.
That's right.
I'm surprised to hear in the article it said 25% of New Yorkers are chronically unbanked or underbanked.
How could you be underbanked? Now, come on now.
You have an empty PayPal account? Maybe you don't have a
Maybe.
smartphone to access your payphone.
Could be, I guess.
I mean, it could be services,
You haven't paid your bills, so you,
Maybe you sleep under a freeway.
yeah.
right? You have to have a
I
bank
wouldn't call
account even
that
if you sleep
unbanked.
under a freeway. If you're gonna buy hot dogs in New York, until now.
Wow.
And so I was reading this, and I'm like, yeah, this seems like a good thing. But I can't help thinking about this because I agree with the reasoning behind it. I think that from my position, that's right. There are people, especially minors. I mean, minors should be able to walk into a store and buy a stick of gum. They shouldn't have to have a credit card. They shouldn't have to have a smartphone. And so I agree with that whole position. And at the same time, I came up with some things here that bother me about being forced. And I don't think I would want a federal law like this. I think if you're going to be 25% underbanked in New York City and there is such a large population of people that could be disserviced, then maybe it makes sense in New York City. But really, I can't help but think that there's some real advantages to being able to start a business without cash. And some of my reasoning was one thing is there's a lot less crime, right? You don't have to hang on to cash. You don't have to walk around with cash. Your customers don't have to walk around with cash. There's just a lot less opportunities for crime. And as a business owner, I think you should have the right to exercise that, right? I mean,
If
you
there is
could.
a crime, it could be really big if they hack into you and take your account.
Well, that's a whole different side of crime, and you've decided to pay that price. But honestly, if you're a little shop in the middle of a city, I think that's the crime I'm least concerned about, right? I mean, like, we went down and did these free optometrist things that they were having at the coffee shop. And when we bought glasses, we did it with a credit card over some snap that they plugged into their phone, and they took the credit card right
Right.
there.
The cube.
What was that?
The cube.
The
It's called
cube?
the cube.
Cube?
They have different.
I don't know. There's a number of them. I'm not sure which one it was.
Okay, find out about that.
If
But-
you're, if
but
you're
look-
a drug dealer, you don't have to worry about money laundering
You found out.
With cash.
with no cash.
With no cash.
Yeah.
Well,
You don't have to count bills.
But it'd be
You-
traceable.
You know, the other thing that I was thinking about is there would be easier procedures for banking. I mean, our tax structure is so complicated right now, and money has to get into certain accounts, and it's just easier. You don't have to worry about an accountant. You can just do it cashless. You can have all that set up in the back end one time, and then that's the way you run your business. And it seems unfair if that kind of technology exists, then you could margin that and say, look, I'm willing to drop these customers just for the convenience and ease of my business. And so in
Isn't
that
that
respect,
discrimination?
well, is it?
Yeah.
I mean, what about my freedom to run a business?
Well, I know, but
It's like I mean, I think that's a good question because I was making this argument to myself, and it's like, well, isn't that the same thing as hanging up a sign that says no blacks? Right? I mean,
Cash
is it?
only
I mean, is
or
that where
credit
we're at? Is where like if I
poor.
tell somebody they can't use cash, it's like saying you're black, you can't come in here.
It's like saying you don't have, yeah, it's an economic slavery is what it is.
Yeah.
Economically
I agree with that.
keeping people out of the society. I go into business, you offer it to anybody, and it's legal tender. As soon as the U.S.
Yeah, it's-
There's an
determines
ethic
cash
there.
is not legal
Yeah.
Every
tender.
bill says illegal tender.
Well, and then here the next big one that I wrap my head around, it falls right on that because I saw if you were to do cashless businesses, you are effectively available to get out of fiat currency. I mean, if you've based your payment system on something like a Bitcoin, you're not tying it to any legal tender. And so there's no easy way to tax you about that. And so in New York now, they want to. That's how they're tracking. They're continuing to make sure that you can be tracked, is by using cash. I mean, it's like an inverse. I don't know. Am I crazy? I was wrapping my head around this morning, and they actually are forcing you to use traditional banking models and a traditional value system, whether it makes sense or not. Whether
The 25% of the population probably isn't too affected by Bitcoin rules.
right. No, Bitcoin is probably the worst example I could give, but it's the quickest one I could get off the top of my head. I don't want to attack each one of these services. but I'm just trying to get the point out there that you are not being allowed to move your business into a future direction that could save you money and tie your value to something something different than a government's capital, right? I mean, like, these rules would stop you from being able to do something like that.
It seems like if you had a limit of like $10, those below $10 have a totally different set of values than those that are expensive, where we want to, say no cash. Like Mexico, we don't want money laundering.
You're talking about
What
A cup of coffee.
doing it for everything does not make sense to me. But if there was a limit below which, okay, cash is okay, but above that, no. I
Because
can
of the
see that.
cost of the transaction.
of the
A
transaction.
lot of these are ice cream shops and coffee shops.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that's really what they're talking about. Is they're talking about you can't run a coffee shop, you can't run an ice cream
So you
shop,
gotta
you
walk
can't
an
sell
extra
hot
3 blocks
dogs
to get a cup of
and not
coffee.
take cash.
Or the corner bodega.
I think
That's
a
right.
financial cutoff is,
And
By
Amazon
the
is
same
cash.
token, more than 15 years ago,
Right.
I couldn't buy a soda in Germany because I didn't have a credit card with a chip in it. And the US still doesn't have credit cards with chip and pin.
They do.
Really?
Oh, they have chip, but they don't have PIN.
Only.
Yeah, they only have chip. They don't have PIN. It's because Americans can't handle it. Because it's cheaper to buy insurance. And they don't want to make it complicated to put you in debt.
ATM's running it, look at the code that's running an ATM.
Yeah.
And in,
Remember too that
and in-
by the banking, everything needing to be a credit card, a debit card, or whatever, that's added cost to society.
It is.
That's not free.
Right?
Every transaction is costing more, so
23%.
that candy bar costs more than it would be for cash. The merchant can't just, whether it's gasoline or whatever it is, they can't just put the same price on there. They have to justify that increased cost.
At minimum 2.5%.
Yep.
Well,
It's really a control issue.
it does feel like thank you,
It
Bob. It
is.
does feel like a control issue. It's just I'm having trouble figuring out which side of that, because I see controls on both sides of this issue. I do see the potential. A lot of this cashless stuff is because it's cheaper in the long run for the vendor to work that way, because they're not dealing with accountants. They're not dealing with formal bank procedures. They're just like an Uber driver. They just started up an app, and all of a sudden they're able to take credit cards.
Well,
And
see, businesses get charged like 0.5%. The small guy gets charged like 3%.
Yeah.
For the transaction, so it's sizable.
Yeah.
it is.
Well, we have a restaurant in Mount Airy, New Mexico, and when he opened up, he put a sign on the door, if you use a credit card, we'll charge you 3% more.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that annoyed me. I said, just charge me more for the meal, don't.
Don't tell you.
Don't tell me.
Right.
Well, at least-
California,
at
I
least
think that's
they're-
illegal
they're
with Sam's.
Notifying you.
Yeah.
Sam's Club has 2 prices.
Yeah.
Credit
Yes.
card price and cash.
I did forget to mention, this article says that that's also what this legislation covers. It was approved 43 to 3 people. It covers this, you can't have a cashless business, but it also prohibits charging cash payers a higher price.
So you charge everybody a higher price.
Yeah.
Although Blackie's gives you a 10% discount if you pay cash.
Isn't that an inverse though? That like the legislation is
Well,
guaranteeing
we go there
that
every
the
week.
cash doesn't get more expensive, right?
And-
Because and that's what's got me on this thought that I think traditional accounting mechanisms are costing small businesses more money when they're dealing with cash. They've figured it out with cashless because it's all
Provided a
dialed
job.
in. What's that?
Provided a job.
Say again?
They're providing a job for someone.
Well, maybe that's the case, but you also, I mean, you have this. It's capitalism. You've got this obligation to try and eke as much profit out of what you're doing as you can, and part of that is giving the consumer a better price. And your ability to give them a better price is your ability to drop all your expenses. Right. Traditional banking models, say accounting models, in this sense, are looking to these people as more expensive, and so they actually have to raise the price to take cash. But this legislation is protecting against that.
And I can't believe I would go for anything that would be passed in New York, but I just think that you
It's
got
discriminatory.
to allow.
Yeah, absolutely discriminatory.
At 25% is a huge percentage.
Huge number, yeah.
It is.
I mean, my first feelings are like you. I feel like, yeah, of course they should be able to send cash. They should be. Nobody should be put into a position where they can't use cash. Cash should be respected. I mean, that's my default position. But then as I dug my head around this article more, and I'll post all this stuff on the website if you guys are interested in reading it. I got to the end, and I'm like, I just wouldn't want a federal law. I think I would want it to be a case by case, like a municipality by municipality. I would like small businesses to be able to figure out what they think is the best business model, and be able to do it before it's getting questioned. Let it be questioned.
It's a federal law, and it says legal tender.
Right.
So if you're in business, you have to take that as payment. I can't believe nobody's brought that to court yet.
That's interesting.
I can't believe nobody
Yeah.
brought it to court.
Is that an insinuated have to, or is it a legal, you must take this?
Legal tender.
Legal tender.
Well, it's
This is
recognized
legal
as
tender.
money,
It
but
means
does
you
it have to be
buy it,
used
right?
for payment?
If somebody wants value, give them this money.
Like, what about the right to refuse any customer? I mean, other than putting a sign up, no
You
blacks.
like who you're gonna pick a cake for?
Yeah, right.
Well,
Yeah.
I don't know, wait for the Supreme Court, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like aside from the cake for and no blacks in the restaurant, you pretty much have the right to refuse service to anyone. I mean,
As long as it doesn't fit within the
So what-
Discriminatory, yeah.
discriminatory.
So I mean, that's what we're calling this is discriminatory.
I think it's economically discriminatory.
This gets into sanctuary cities, and this is exactly why Las Vegas was developed.
Devolve?
Well, you've always got a very interesting take on these things, Bob. What do you mean by that? And are you saying we should go gambling?
No, no, I mean.
It's a special thought.
There's special events, special things that happen in Las Vegas that don't happen anyplace else.
I wouldn't know. Nobody's ever told me what happened in
Well, I don't know
Vegas.
either, but you can read about it. You know,
Movies about it.
the reputation of that place. So mankind will always find a way around doing this. I mean, this is insane that New York City is doing this. This
Scott,
is
did you see
insane.
this? Bitcom is a leading indicator of the coronavirus outbreak.
Nah.
Hillary
In
started
Forbes, Bitcom is a leading indicator of the coronavirus outbreak. And this writer says, I have maintained for a long time now that China is a very significant driver of Bitcoin, and I maintain that Bitcoin is a leading indicator of troubles in China because it's a safe haven asset and, sorry, flight capital.
People will always be wanting to put something under their mattress because you can't trust the banks. Really, you
I
can't.
can think of a number of things.
This is just money. This is making money for bankers. That's all.
Yeah.
Fond memories.
Memories, yes.
What else could be under your mattress?
Hundreds of credit cards under my
Don't
mattress.
tell my
Motel
kids.
6 where you put a quarter in the bed.
Yeah. Never mind. Memories.
I lost my list. I'm sorry. If I look flustered, I lost my list. Okay, here we are. Well, I'll put this link. I thought it was interesting, obviously. I spent too much time thinking about it. My default position is you should always be able to take cash. In case you're all wondering. It's my default position. To reiterate, I do have trouble as a small business owner. If I figured out that was the best way to run my business, well, you can bet I would be out there fighting, going, wait, I should be allowed to do this. I mean, maybe it's a matter of there being businesses out there that you can put cash into some token that you can give me. Maybe that's what we should be encouraging, something like that.
I thought you said that this was, you already gave us the default.
I did. I'm going to go on to the
Okay.
next thing. Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for keeping me on course. I am the master of a digression. This is what happens when you ask for my topics.
Scott, the last 3 years we had our little store, we didn't use pennies.
Oh my gosh. Be careful in New York.
Because I wanted to make room for dollar coins in the cash register, so we didn't use pennies.
All right.
And one time in 3 years, somebody really went nuts and complained, so we just gave them a nickel. That was it.
I think that's...
We just round off. Because the halfpenny disappeared 130 years ago. We can now get rid of the penny, I think.
Yeah.
Didn't they talk about that? I think they're not.
Yeah, they, no pennies in Canada.
Yeah.
All you have to do is devaluate it to such an extent. Like, how many times have you worried about exact change around here? I mean, I don't even know what to do with these things. What I'm gonna glue them on sequence on my coat for disco night.
Tips.
Yeah, tips.
that's
Nobody
not even-
wants that as a
no,
tip.
no.
You pour out a handful of 10 centavos, and your waiter's like, "Oh no."
In the grocery store, the baggers will take them.
Yeah, the baggers will take them.
Because they get enough of them.
But if you
And
ask
they have a
them,
way to change them.
they
That's
always
just-
have change too, the baggers, if you need change.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah.
The baggers. Oh, that
They
that's a good
always have
point.
change.
I never would have thought to ask for change.
I've never thought about asking a bagger for
My
change. Of course they have
toothpaste
change. They've
will
been getting
have a
change all
peso.
day.
Yeah, that's true, but I never thought of
They
it.
probably got more change than cash register.
Yeah.
They do at
They do.
Walmart for sure.
That's all. That's a great life pro tip around here. I'd say ask the bagger for change, because there are. How often are you going through? And it's like, I don't have any change. Just paid for it with a credit card. The bagger's over here. I got change.
I saw a bagger the other day with those credit card things.
What is this? A bagger with a credit card machine?
Do you tip the cashier? Do you tip to the cashier?
No, I do not
No,
tip
I
the
don't.
cashier, I
Okay.
tip the baggers.
Yeah.
The bagger could have one of these coin ops where he just plugs it into his phone.
It's like cashless.
Cashless baggers.
I've heard that the banks charge for doing, breaking, selling coins, basically. That they don't give change automatically to businesses.
Say that again.
The banks actually charge businesses if they want a bunch of change.
That's here?
Here?
Here in the US.
Here.
Huh.
And I don't know if it's true or not.
Like
I'm
change,
just
change,
curious
or?
if anyone knew.
Huh. Don't know.
If you want
Coins.
to change roll at the bank,
Yeah.
Oh,
I think now, it used to be 95 cents, I think now it's like 91 cents on a dollar you get back.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it used to be you could just bring your coins in.
I
They don't do
remember
that.
that, yeah.
You gotta get your phone number on
My
it.
bank.
I remember being a kid and rolling pennies and bringing them into the bank, and it was such a great experience. And I also remember the last time I tried to bring change into a bank, they looked at me like I was a leper. Like, this is not what we do here.
I'd save all
Yeah,
my
that's
change.
right. You need to go find a Fred Meyer's. They've got a machine. They'll charge you to do
Big
this.
old jug of change.
Yeah.
Taking it
Yeah, they get a percentage. They get a percentage?
I'm thinking the last time I threw a bucket of change into a machine like that at a grocery store, they took a piece of it.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
The coin store.
I knew the
I don't
bank
think
was
so.
Yeah.
Or if you
To
take
pay
it
for
right
the
out of
electricity? I don't know.
Yeah, right. I knew the bank was right.
Against your grocery bill.
Hey, I found another great article this week. Airbnb is using AI to predict whether your guests are psychopaths.
What?
Oh. You need to keep that.
Psychopaths.
Yeah. Obviously, those of you that know how my other job, I would know that I found this very interesting.
I would rather have it go the other way, too. What if your hosts are?
If your hosts are psychopaths, that's interesting. Nothing about this article mentioned in that direction. This is it is a tool from Airbnb. They actually bought a startup back in 2017 called Truly, but it's spelled with 2 O's. Truly, so they're truly illiterate. But
Is that next door to Hooli?
Yeah, right, Hooli, that's right.
You know that one.
But the AI tool uses everything from a user's criminal record, their social media posts, to rate the likelihood of exhibiting untrustworthy traits. Includes narcissism, and even psychopathy. How come I can't wrap my psychopathy? Don't look at the word.
Well,
That
how about
even a
if you
word.
want to make a reservation at Bates Motel?
Right, maybe
Can you-
those
can
are
you
the
rate
kinds of
that?
guests you're looking for. But it's, they said in the article, every Airbnb reservation is scored with a risk before it's confirmed. So, I mean, this is some deep
Privacy issues.
Privacy, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I've heard a lot of techs talk about AI being kind of like this black box. You throw it stuff, you're training it to do stuff. Like you're putting in bad stuff and telling it that's a bad answer. You're putting in good stuff and calling that a good answer. And then you leave it alone to learn until it starts spitting out the right answers you're looking for. But they refer to it as like this black box, this process that happens in the middle of workflows. And I'm wondering how much of this is a privacy concern, because that AI, at the very least, a machine has access to all this information on you. They've made it possible so that they can do this, but it makes sense too. You don't want people coming into your house to. I mean,
Exactly.
there's been years of trashing house stories.
They're selling that profile though to third parties.
You know, nothing in this article talked about that, but I wouldn't put it past them.
Oh, it's
Yeah,
guaranteed.
yeah. I mean, that's such a way to make money.
How else would they be making money?
Airbnb takes a cut
Okay.
of every transaction. I mean, they are the middlemen. You pay Airbnb, and then I get paid by Airbnb.
Right, but Ray is making a valid point. You're just telling me that Airbnb makes revenue. Without outside sales, this is a pure cost to them. The cost of acquiring the business and the cost of running it.
So they have to be making some sort of shirt.
Well, that's an interesting point. So you're saying that revenue per reservation wouldn't be enough to justify.
It's a cost. They didn't have the cost. Now they acquired this company
Cost
and
of
they're
running
doing something
business.
new.
Well,
And it's a cost.
couldn't you levy that against the cost of the lawsuits that are being filed against them annually because of the amount of untrustworthy people that have been out there? Because that's what they're trying to do, is they're trying to combat this because they've got a steady stream of lawsuits against them for bad behavior.
But then it should work both ways.
Well, maybe it does. It just didn't say anything about
You can't
that.
just go one way and
I'll
not
put a
put-
link to it on the website.
Definitely.
You can read the
I
article.
will do that.
They did not
because
go into that at all.
That is one of the real reasons that I don't book an Airbnb.
I don't either anymore.
Yeah, well, and your concern is valid. My father tells stories of horror experiences, and we have Airbnb guests that show up like, I don't know what I'm getting into, and they're so very happy to have found us that they share their horror stories from other places they've rented. And so there's one of the things that's very clear with Airbnb is what you read on the screen can have nothing to do with the experience you have when you get there.
Yeah.
Another thing, I mean, it's a side issue. Universities have big problems with students not being able to find housing in the cities because people have converted their housing to Airbnb. At Humboldt State, there's lots of kids that live in their cars or camp in the woods, in the redwoods there, because
They've Airbnb'd their house out to make money?
That's happening in Tucson.
all those people that don't live in their houses, instead of renting them to college students, they make them Airbnb.
Oh, yeah, I can see that happening.
Well, and I've seen in Alaska where people have built specifically to be Airbnbs.
I
Like,
can imagine, yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
a
Alaska's
number of guest cottages on a property specifically for Airbnb. Oh, and there's an insane number of Airbnbs
there are.
in San Carlos.
Our experience with who owns the B&B was very good. They told us all about that person, and boy, you had to really be an idiot not to realize who you were renting from.
Yeah, well, it might also have something to do with how much research you put into it, too.
Yeah,
And anybody can post whatever they want,
that's true.
as
That's
far
right.
as a review or any of those kind of things.
That's right.
You know what this is reminding? We need to wrap this up because we're running over already. Even though I am so insanely interesting, it's hard to leave. It reminds me of this video that's out there right now, and there is this service that's similar to Uber. See, I need to stop. I can't talk anymore. I think it's called Didi, and it's similar to Uber here in Mexico. And there's this great video of this guy. He's like a YouTuber, and he's done this intentionally. He signed up for Didi to be a Didi driver with his horse. And he wrote up the whole description with his horse and waited to get the first call. And he got his first customer and shows up, and sure enough, it's kind of like the Airbnb circumstance. They didn't pay any attention. They just thought it was nearby and said, yeah, bring him over. He shows up, and here's this woman, and she's got to get to work, and her car's got a flat tire. It's like, I'm not going on the horse. It's like, no, I'm not taking this ride. And he's like, all right, well, you need to cancel it. And it's like, but they're going to charge me money if I cancel. It's like, look, the description says with my horse. I don't want you affecting my rating. If I cancel it, it's going to hurt my ratings. So you have to cancel it. And so he talks her into doing the ride. And he's got his camera guy following the horse all the way to her. And he's mic'd, so you're listening to her going, ah! Oh, she's hanging on to this horse, bouncing up and down.
1 horsepower.
Are they sitting together on the side?
Yeah, no, he's got her in front, like some adventure movie. Didi Caballo. Now that I've brought that up, I'll make sure to link that on our webpage too.
Very creative.
Can I ask a mechanical question?
Sure.
Get a soundbar to a TV. Do you need 1 or 2 HDMI cables?
You should only need one.
Yeah. From the soundbar out to in on the TV?
No, from the TV or your sound source to the sound bar. Hopefully your TV has...
TV out to soundbar in.
Wait, now let me think about this for a second.
HDMI doesn't have in and out, does it?
No, it doesn't, but... Wow, I'm trying to wrap my head around it, because there are sound bars that you can run. You want to run your devices through the sound bar.
Just the TV.
Just the TV. So you need to have an out on the TV that goes to the sound bar, and it could be Bluetooth, but I don't think it'll be HDMI. So what's left? Optical?
Yeah.
Optical would be a way that you'd run it out.
Okay.
The red and white RCAs. What do you got, Jim? Yeah, an auxiliary plug, either like the Walkman headphone size, that 8mm, or the red and white component video, component cables, or Bluetooth. Those are the three I can imagine for doing audio from the
Out of
TV.
the TV and then into the sound.
Yeah. But what I've seen a lot of with sound bars now is they have like 3 or 4 audio input or 3 or 4 HDMI inputs, and you run HDMI from your DVD, from your cable box, from your streaming box, and then you have an HDMI cable out of the sound bar into the TV, and so your sound bar becomes your switcher. Does that make sense? And so if you've got more than one HDMI port on your sound bar, it might be for that. You're welcome. Anything else I can help with?
Yes.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. I'm going to lift this cable up behind you guys so that you guys can make your way, or put it on the table. Maybe putting it on the table is the best way to do it. And I'm going to sign off. This has been the San Carlos Computer Club. I am Scott Stimson with International Computer Solutions. I sure appreciate you being here with us today. We had a really nice group.
Entertaining.
I'm glad it was entertaining. I had a lot of fun. If you're looking for computer help in San Carlos or anywhere on the internet, I'd appreciate you getting a hold of me. I'm at internationalcs.net, Scott at internationalcs.net. Or if you're interested in the computer club, you can always check out our website at sccClub.org. Until next week, have a great week. I'll see you on Tuesday. Until then, tech on. What am I gonna do? I had an idea about. Use what?
The cool shot of you
From you, from the camera? Yeah.
right there.
For.
That's a different angle on you.
Or you're actually. I didn't even see you stick it back on the camera. Oh, I've got cups in front of me though.
Yeah, but that's our house, man.
Yeah, okay.
Oh,
But-
that's too bad. You didn't use that. All right.
Well, it's still rolling. We're still streaming. It's out there. I got it in the video. It can be clipped too.
Okay.
But
well,
there is
then
something I
here,
want to
then
do.
let's
Take
play-
a second and let me introduce this, because what I want to do is I want to put a chunk at the beginning.
Hang on. What is the...
Were you waiting for me, Jan? Okay. I just wanted to try and end this with something I would put at the beginning.
All right, we're going to make this artistic.
Well, you can do whatever you want with the video. It's the audio I'm interested in, so just be quiet for a second. Hi, welcome to the San Carlos Computer Club. I'm Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and we're about to have a meeting.
Here, hang on. Let me just...
I should have something right up if I want to do this.
There you go. Well, I know, but why don't you just...
I'm going to have to write something.
Yeah, but why don't you just ad lib, man?
Yeah.
All right.
You said... This is Scott Stimson with the San Carlos Computer Club and International Computer Solutions. Thank you for joining us today, January 28th, for our San Carlos Computer Club meeting here at Tequila's, 9:15 to 10:15-ish every Tuesday. I think
You know what? While you're here, Scott.
I'm here. I'm still streaming. Should I turn it off?
These people up. No. Seriously, while you're here, do it a couple more times.
Okay.
Just, you might get something better.
Hey, this is Scott Stimson from the... well, that wasn't better.
Hey!
Hey, this is Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and this is the San Carlos Computer Club. Welcome, and thank you for joining us. We meet here every Tuesday at Tequila's from 9:15 to 10:15. And away we go. There we go. Thank you for joining us at the San Carlos Computer Club. My name is Scott Stimson from International Computer Solutions, and I am your host today, January 28th, for our meeting here at Tequila's on Tuesday. I can't keep doing this. It'll make me
Here,
crazy.
do one more. Just listen to me. Hi, it's Scott Stimson coming to you from beautiful San Carlos, Sonora, Mexico. At the beautiful blah blah blah.
All right. Hi, this is Scott Stimson coming to you from the beautiful San Carlos, Sonora, Mexico. We meet every Tuesday here at Tequila's for our San Carlos Computer Club meeting. I don't know if that worked very well.
It's not the, you were doing to the San Carlos Computer Club. It's not the San Carlos. Coming to you from beautiful San Carlos. Sonora, Mexico.
Hi, this is Scott Stimson coming to you from beautiful San Carlos, Sonora, where we are having our weekly computer club meeting. This morning, January 28th, we...
That's all right. Maybe we can chop.
I got to be done with it. It's good, but
you're done.
It's a good idea. Goodbye, everybody out there that's still listening. I'm shutting all this down.